Hey guys, what's up? Okay, so uh e-learning is happening. It's pretty cool, I guess. Probably not. I definitely wouldn't have minded just teaching until spring break, but I guess you can think of it as this extended spring break, even though we're still kind of gonna be working a little bit, but maybe these are shorter days for you than actually coming to school. I don't know. It's bizarre that it's the almost literal anniversary of when we first went on quarantine. I guess the universe really doesn't want us teaching in person during the second, third week of March, that week before spring break. It's just like we're cursed or something. But anyway, I'll make a video today. As you as you can see, I have done already. I'll make a video for Wednesday checking the homework, which I will post. I gave it to y'all, right? Yeah, it should be really quick. It's those 10. It's just verbs. It's not even a sentence. So we'll check that in tomorrow's video. Thursday I'll make a video, and then Friday will just be a vocabulary quiz on chapter 21. So that's all it's going to be. Next week I'll consider streaming at least once, maybe streaming just the homework check, but otherwise I'll make videos Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you'll have a translation quiz that Friday before spring break officially starts. So at least um, next week is like a 4-day week. It's not like 2 straight full weeks of e-learning. But let's okay, this is the vocabulary for this chapter. I think we looked at it yesterday. It's not a hard set. Let's say I'll pick 15 for Friday, because that's kind of like all we're doing this week now. Though you got to turn in that homework. I'll make an assignment for it by the end of today. Try to turn it in through there. If you have any technical issues, you can message or email it to me. But obviously, I prefer if you can submit it through the assignment itself. And check posts. I'll make this clear in the assignment I put up. But I'll communicate with you guys and post links to videos on posts. Also, subscribe to my YouTube channel, so you can just get those videos directly. You can almost avoid Teams, at least for my class on some days, if you can just go find the video, because we're still just going to have like the one assignment due and the one test. This chapter is all about third and fourth conjugation verbs get slightly weird endings. You're going to want to look for these long e's to indicate futurity. The first person singular for future is also really weird, whereas it is bor for first and second conjugation to be like I will be verbed. It's going to be ar for I will be verbed for these third and fourth conjugation verbs. I know not all of us know which verbs are third and fourth versus first and second. That is tricky, but if you can just like run this knowledge, you can run any verb through this filter, and if it happens to have these endings, then you should apply this new information to understanding what tense they are. Let's do these 5 sentences, and then I'll let you off the hook. Tomorrow we'll mostly check the homework, and I might look a little bit at a Virgil story. Animus eius pecunia aut cupiditate fructus tangi non poterat. It's already color coded for us. So, okay, interesting. Animus, spirit or mind. Eius, his or her. Pecunia, money. Out is either. Cupiditate is desire. Fructus is fruit. You should probably know. And then tangi non poterat. So poterat is from possum, okay, but it's not he or she can. It's imperfect because potest would be present. So it's he or she could. And then non-tangi is pretty weird. So that's going to be he or she could not touch, because tango is one of our new verbs. Tango, tanger at the bottom there, to touch. This is a passive infinitive. If you remember, we all don't just have passive conjugated verbs. We also have passive infinitives, and they might briefly look to you like a first person singular perfect tense verb when in fact they are passive. A first person singular perfect wouldn't fit here. Possum always takes an infinitive, so that should be the big clue. So his or her spirit could not be touched. And then pecunia, or like money or pleasure, is just kind of floating there. We don't have a preposition for it. So I would say it's ablative of means, and it's going to be touched with money or pleasure, but you're not really touched or like verbed with something. You're more like verbed by something, right? So they are ablative of means, but we want to use by when the verb is passive instead of with. We use with if the verb is good old active, like if somebody touches something with something. But if somebody is touched, sounds weird, it's going to be this ablative of means. Okay, and it's the desire of fruit, and they probably mean profit. This is so weird. This is like probably the same slides I was using to talk to last year's 8th graders, right when we went on quarantine. Weird, what's it called? Deja vu, I guess. Amor patriae and omni spiritu sentiabatur. So sentiabatur, it's already labeled for you, but it should be pretty clear to begin with. It's imperfect, third person, singular, passive. So how is that translated? Love of the fatherland, not actively feels or senses something. It's not is felt. That's present passive. It's imperfect passive because that BA. So it's love of the fatherland was felt or sensed in every spirit. Not too bad, right? But the was is important. Okay, you don't want to say was feeling. That'd be active. It was felt or sensed. Sentio can just be sensed if that's easier to remember. Number 3, sapientia et veritas certa in hominibus, stultis non invenientur. So I don't have the macron over the E in invenientur, but that should still look kind of future-y to us. The present passive of this verb that means to find would be I-U-N-T-U-R. So I-E-N-T-U-R, it is future passive. So this is like wisdom, and veritas is truth, and certain truth. If it's future, it's not going to be is not passively found, but will not be found in foolish men. In foolish men. Oh yeah, look, okay, so this is sized wrong. Let's size it correctly, and then we'll wrap up for the day. Very short video to start us off. Ease ourselves into e-learning. So it's this guy right here. I guess, let's see, invenio and venire is fourth conjugation, so it's this one. So maybe if my macrons are accurate, maybe he doesn't get a macron. That's a little weird. But as you can see, it's I-U-N-T-U-R for present. Guess it's macrons over the E's for everything except third person plural. They get these accents, but not full macrons. The more you know. So it will not be found in foolish men. Virtue, also, etiums just also or even. Also, something about much danger and the non-paratur. That is just a present passive. Don't overthink paratur. So it's not virtue, does not actively prepare. Virtue is present tense, not passively prepared, even by a lot of money. So this is an ablative of means again. So it's by a lot of money. We want to use by. And then, for some reason, this one just has the answer. Interesting. Very interesting. The spirit of the author who wrote this poem. So that's like the most straightforward relative clause of all time. Spirit of the author who wrote this poem. Qui's antecedent is author, not spirit. We're not talking about the spirit per se. We're talking about the actual author. Who the spirit belongs to. Something about from gods and goddesses, immortal gods and goddesses often, I see tange batur, imperfect, passive tense. Even though the future passives are getting, or a slightly weirder to spot for these third and fourth conjugation, tangio, tangera, and any other verb, all get the same imperfect passive endings. B-A-R, B-A-R-I-S, B-A-T-U-R, bomor, bomini, bontour. So look for that BA. So it's not is passively touched, but was touched by the immortal gods and goddesses. Ablative of agent with those gods and goddesses there, since I guess they count as people. So that's just a little basic passive voice brush up and review. Again, y'all probably like pretty sick of passive voice at this point. I feel like we've been on passive voice on and off for the whole year. I'm sorry, it'll kind of fade into the distance by chapter 23. So when we get back from spring break, it's kind of not really a thing anymore. We'll probably be able to rush through 22 pretty quickly. In fact, wasn't that my okay? I have to decide. I guess I'll just give you all the vocab quiz, and then maybe I can have like. It'd be cool to come back to chapter 23 after spring break, but maybe 22 would be a good way to kick the rust off, since even a week off, we might be a little rusty. All right. If you are interested in, especially if you're a student who I did not teach in the 6th grade, I redid these Julius Caesar slides. I think it's actually kind of interesting. You would miss the beginning, but you can go watch the Latin 1.5 video on Julius Caesar. And because I feel like this video isn't long enough, I'm actually going to sum it up really quickly. I'm going to see how fast I can do. Julius Caesar was born in year 100, 2,121 years ago. Okay. When he was a kid, Rome was going through a lot of tumult. Sulla, this general, became a dictator for a little while, basically because generals were not limited in terms of their power. They had too much power, too much unchecked power. And so Julius Caesar, as a teenager, sees this guy just kind of like corruptly taking too much power for himself. And that clearly has an impact on Julius Caesar. When he's a teenager, no, when he's in his early 20s, he's captured by pirates and he has them all murdered, which is cool, I guess. He might have been friends with Catiline in the 60s when Catiline failed his attempted coup. Okay, and he's elected consul in 53, which is kind of cool. So yeah, Julius Caesar for a long time, like he's in his, what is he? He's born in 100. So he's in his 40s, his late 40s when he's first elected to consul. Before that, he had just been kind of doing political maneuvering, working his way up the chain. Not anything super spectacular, just kind of weird. But then he's elected consul, and he has a very corrupt consulship. But he avoids being put on trial after the year-long consul is over by retiring to his governorship in Cisalpine Gaul, which is something that would happen to consuls after they were after they fulfilled their year-long consulship. They would be given a province basically to lord over and kind of enforce the taking of taxes on behalf of the Roman Republic. And so this is a loophole that Julius Caesar uses to avoid being put on trial. So he's elected in 53, and from 52 to, let's see, what is it again? Okay, I got some dates wrong here. 1 second. Caesar elected consul. There's a weird discrepancy going on here. Okay. What? Caesar manifesto. Okay, 59. I wonder where I got 53 from. Ugh. So all my 1.5 kids, they got the wrong year. This matters to me because, I mean, for one thing, this map tells us that he goes to Gaul in 58. So it's he goes to France to conquer it for 8 years. He spends 8 years in France conquering all of it, as well as some German tribes. But it's interesting that, like, he's elected consul 5 years, a little less than 5, I guess 4, after Catiline's failed attempt. So again, he sees a guy try to overreach and take a lot of power for himself, and he sees him fail. So that, just like seeing Sulla as a dictator when he was a kid, probably have some impact on him. He has his consulship. He goes to France immediately after. He spends a lot of time. I mean, can you imagine 8 years? He's sending word back to Rome through this whole time in the writings that we refer to as Bello Gallico, Gallic Wars. He's able to take on France because it's so many disparate tribes and warlords that they're not unified. They don't equal this like big force. He's there for so long and amasses such a large army because as he's going, it's not like he's losing resources. He's gathering resources. He's getting more money by pillaging these towns. He's capturing men and boys from these villages and not really forcing them, but paying them to be a part of his army, which they're willing to do despite the weird circumstances of it. And then Cicero and Pompey was his ally, right? He forms this powerful alliance with this super well-known, powerful general and this really rich guy who's also a general, but less known for being a general. But even Pompey, his one-time ally, and definitely Cicero, who's always hated Julius Caesar, they're like, along with other senators, saying, oh, Julius Caesar needs to come back to Rome finally and stand on trial for his corrupt consulship. And Julius Caesar's like, okay, cool, except I'm actually going to invade Rome. A general is actually not allowed to come back to Rome with their army unless it's under the pretense of a triumph, one of these triumphal parades. So simply by crossing a river, which is, it's a very minor river, but it was in northern Italy, or separating southern France from southern Italy. He kind of like is saying that he's going to war simply by doing that. And then, yeah, he invades Massilia, which you can see there in the south of France. It's modern day Marseille, which is a Greek um, client state of Rome. And then he works his way through the peninsula, and he gets to Rome. And he's able to waltz into Rome. The die is cast, is what he said. He's able to waltz into Rome because Pompey makes a choice to leave the city of Rome. He does not stay in Rome and fight it out, protecting the city from Julius Caesar's approaching forces. So Pompey goes to Greece, and many of the other Roman senators who are sided with Pompey, because that's what is happening now. The Roman Republic is kind of split between people who are going to support Julius Caesar and those who are supporting the Republic itself and the way the Republic has been running things. And that includes most of the Roman senators. They're mostly scattering to Africa, to parts of North Africa. And then so Pompey is in Greece. Pompey is this really great general who has killed a lot of pirates. He's killed a lot of rebelling gladiators. And he's just a really accomplished guy as far as being a general goes. But he loses against Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar routs him in the Battle of Pharsalus. And then Pompey escapes this. He doesn't die. It's just his army gets defeated. He goes to Egypt to ask Cleopatra's brother for help. He is assassinated there. Okay, Julius Caesar shows up a little later. He inserts himself into this conflict between Cleopatra and Cleopatra's brother Ptolemy. He favors Cleopatra over Ptolemy and helps her defeat Ptolemy during the siege of Alexandria that lasts for a couple of months. And then he ties up some loose ends and he returns to Rome. That's me getting ahead of myself. He returns to Rome to celebrate a whopping 4 triumphs at once, which is kind of cool. Triumphs were these Roman parades, basically, that generals would star in when they returned from a successful military campaign. And so when Julius Caesar finally arrives back from settling these conflicts in Egypt and other tying up other loose ends around the Mediterranean in terms of taking on the people who were kind of standing in his way, he returns to Rome as this like dictator figure, basically, and he celebrates a whopping 4. Did I say whopping? Triumphs back to back. So there's just 4 days of triumph celebrating, and everybody would show up, rich or poor, to these triumphs. One is for Asia Minor, one's for Egypt, one's for Africa, other parts of Africa that he had to fight, and Gaul as well. Arsinoe is in the Egyptian one, and the Roman population is like, no, don't kill her. She's like a princess. Like, that'd be weird. So because sometimes they're parading like political prisoners in these triumphs, and at the end of the parade they would get executed. But the Roman public wasn't into that. I think that's an interesting detail. A few years past, Julius Caesar is this dictator. We still have consuls at this time, but Julius Caesar is the one assigning the consuls. People aren't voting for them anymore. So the democratic element of the republic is basically gone. There are still senators and consuls, like I said, but everyone kind of knows who's essentially in charge. And Brutus and Cassius and several other senators, at least 21 other ones, decide that, you know, he's playing king, basically. And Rome has this deep-seated, long-standing thing against kings or tyrants or monarchs or autocrats, whatever you want to call it. Even if Julius Caesar didn't fully picture himself this way, he clearly was. And on the Ides of March, he is assassinated. Alas, et tu, Brute, he said. There's some speculation that maybe, y'all saw this in the video, right? Brutus could have been his son, but that's just speculation. What we do know is that Brutus and him liked each other pretty well. So that had to be rough for him. This is all obviously kind of romanticized and adapted in the Shakespeare play that I was going to have people read in class next week. It'll never happen. And then Octavian happens. I won't bore you with the details of Octavian. Basically, after Julius Caesar is assassinated, even though the senators did it because they wanted to preserve democracy, it basically just opens up a power vacuum. And for 15 years, Octavian, who becomes Augustus, dukes it out with Mark Antony, who sides with Cleopatra, Julius Caesar's old ex-girlfriend, and Octavian eventually wins in a naval battle and becomes the first true emperor of the now newly minted Roman Empire. And we kind of like historians tend to sort of like what Augustus did for Rome, since he does lead to the end of civil strife for a while actually. Okay, if you made it through all of that, that's crazy because it is that's technically optional, but there's some new kids in the class who I've never really like lectured on Julius Caesar about, and it would be weird to go through a Latin class without talking about Julius Caesar at some length. So there you go. It's appropriate timing this time of year. I'll upload a homework check video tomorrow, and let me know if you have any questions. I'll make an assignment for the homework as well. So goodbye.